Hello and welcome to yet another fresh new episode of Dynamic CIO Talk Show. This is where we get technology leaders, strategic thinkers, and visionaries to talk about how technology and technology-based innovations are paving way for better customer experience, ease of service availability, and a bright future for human beings. In today's episode, we have a very special guest with us. I can say it's a bit different from our usual list of guests. We have the pleasure of having with us today Shubham Gupta, an IAS Indian Administrative Service Officer of 2019 batch. Shubham is currently working as Assistant Collector at Etapalli, which is a subdivision of Gadchiroli district in the state of Maharashtra, and also as the project head of integrated tribal development projects at uh, Bhamragad, which is also part of a subdivision of the same district. He is a postgraduate in economics from the prestigious Delhi School of Economics at the Delhi University. In today's conversation, we are going to discuss a very futuristic, interesting, and innovative technology implementation and a use case of blockchain, which Shubham had led. This is also a new global precedent for Web 3.0 adoption for on-chain e-governance. Gadchiroli district has implemented a solution wherein it will issue caste certificates to its citizens via LegitDoc, a Polygon public blockchain-based platform, which makes these certificates instantaneously verifiable. Now, without further ado, let's start right away and dive into this conversation. Welcome to the talk show, Shubham. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Rahul, for this generous introduction. I am doing absolutely fine. Good to see you too.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to this conversation because I said that this is going to be a very special one for me. Tell us a little about yourself, your background, your current role, your passion for technology, if any, and then we will go into the conversation.
All right. So I am from Jaipur, Rajasthan. And like you said, I did my graduation in economics from Delhi University. After that, I was in another service called Indian Audit and Account Service for about for a couple of years. And then I moved into the IAS. I did my training in Nashik, and that's really where the genesis of this project is. Sort of I got this idea of why I should do this project from Nashik. And then when I came here, like you already introduced, I am handling two offices here. One is the SDM office, which is located in Etapalli, and another is the project office, which is located in Bhamragad. So these are my primary roles and responsibilities here. And as far as technology goes, I think it's really appealing to me whenever we're talking about technology, because I really feel that technology just makes things very simple. It may sound to be very complex when you're trying to build it, but once it gets done, people's lives become much easier and much more efficient. So I think both for systems as well as people's convenience, it is very important that technology is embraced by the government, and I'm sure we're already making a lot of strides in this, and we will continue to do so.
I completely agree with you on various facts that you have stated, that technology makes life and things simpler. It makes processes very simple and adaptable. Government is really making a lot of effort, and the results are showing in various domains. So I was reading this abstract from the case study that you have posted on LinkedIn later last month, and it read, "The source of truth for citizen records will no longer be the dusty files raked in government offices or the administrator governed data on cloud repositories. Instead, it'll be the undeniable, cryptographically verifiable data proofs stored on chain." Now, this is a very futuristic and a very bold statement. How do you envision that technology is going to be used in such a way that its pervasiveness is felt by the users of technology?
Right. So I think this statement pretty much emphasizes on what exactly we're going to be trying to do with this project. And like I always say, this project is just one step towards what I actually aspire to do, whatever in whatever domain I am going to be able to sort of bring technology into. And so in terms of governance, when you're talking about governance, initially the phase was that there were a lot of file work which used to happen. Then slowly the governance moved into e-office, e-governance, everything that was being put into hard copies, hard files and all that, that moved into soft copies and soft files. A lot of documentation became digital. People were asked to not produce documents in hard copy, but rather just show them on a device which we use for multiple purposes. Now is the time when we have to start looking at data which is much more transparent, governance which is much more people friendly, and ultimate objective of governance which is service to the people and making lives easier for them. And probably a few years down the line, we would not have even imagined that governance will be on chain or can be on chain, and it will be readily available to the people. People will be able to verify everything at the same time, in a click of a button in 10 seconds. For example, in this project, a person is able to verify the caste certificate in just about 10 seconds, So that kind of speedy governance system, and at the same time accessibility to the people, is tremendously encouraging, and the scope that it entails it's just outstanding. So it also, what it does is also it completely tries to do away with the discretionary powers which governance used to have, but which I think all the governments across the country and probably outside also are just trying to do away with as much as possible, because ultimately it's about how we can provide services to the people with the least cost and least maintenance.
No, exactly. And the whole element of transparency and trust actually builds on the foundation that has already been created by the usage of such technologies. Excellent. I mean, this is a very wonderful start of a conversation that I'm envisaging. So digitizing citizen services is certainly a mammoth task for governments at various levels, be it the central government, state governments, or the district administration. How do you see this momentum shifting and becoming more advanced? And what are some of the challenges that you observe while you are traveling this journey?
Right. So let me start with challenges first. And I mean, the reason why I want to start with this is because I'm working in a place like Gadchiroli. It's probably it's part of Maharashtra, but if you come to this place, you will realize how much of a work needs to be done in a place like Gadchiroli to make it, let's say, a place which is part of a state which is probably the most developed state in the country, right? So it's a very rural setup that I'm working in. In fact, Gadchiroli, as compared to Gadchiroli, even Etapalli is even more backward and more rural in setup. It has all the good points about it being a rural setup and being an underdeveloped forested setup. It's very beautiful and pristine. But at the same time, in terms of administration, there are a lot of challenges which we have to face when we try to implement a project like this. One of the major challenges is, of course, that it needs a lot of patience and hand-holding to get the staff, get the people to understand why exactly you are doing it. In other words, you have to explain why you're trying to spend the taxman's money to sort of execute a project of this scale, and what exactly is going to be achieved by doing this project in a place like Gadchiroli. So that becomes extremely important for you, and you yourself have to be extremely convinced to let others understand the vision behind this project and what are the scales of improvements which you are trying to imagine once this project gets executed here. Another very important thing, repercussion of this project, not in terms of governance, but also in terms of how this project can change lives of the people. Again, why this is important to do in a place like Gadchiroli is, for example, now when we execute this project, a significant amount of word has spread across the country that this project has been tried and tested in this place called Gadchiroli, Etapalli, and Bamragad. The youth have already started getting to know that there is something called blockchain, there is something called cryptocurrency, there is something called governance on change, there is something called Web3. So this kind of financial literacy, this kind of digital literacy which we are talking about, the impact is going to be just outstanding, because right now the aspirations of the people are very limited here. That's also because they don't have any sort of exposure. So it is very important for somebody like me, who probably tries to understand technology a little bit, to sort of bring these different elements into the common lives of the people, everyday lives of the people, and just try to make them aware that something like this can also work. And this is also one career aspect which they can try to imagine for themselves. That is one part. And in terms of the possibilities for governance, there are endless. In fact, I'd be very happy to tell you that the district collector of Gadchiroli is already planning another project on blockchain in the same district.
Wow.
Wherein the citizen benefits, all the benefits of the government will be routed through a platform which is built on blockchain. This is going to be a permission blockchain. This caste certificate project is on a public blockchain, but anyway, the on-chain philosophy of governance is going to be used in this project also. So I hope I have answered your question.
No, fantastic, and rightly so that you picked up the challenges, and these challenges are completely different than the challenges that the private sector faces in their corporations, in their organizations, because, as you said, that using taxpayers' money on something like this needs to be of a very different value, and that value needs to be seen and felt by the seniors, by the administrators before they give you your go ahead. But the benefits also are very, very pervasive across society. As you mentioned, that the youth got to know what is a blockchain, what is a cryptocurrency, and that is that opens doors for different other avenues and vistas. I completely agree with you, and also on the fact that the district is backward in terms of it is a tribal district, and I understand what all difficulties you may have faced in terms of the administrative part of this rollout. So I again refer to the same narration which I was mentioning earlier, that e-governance will attain its holy grail when we transition from trust-based information to code-based information, which is the truth anyone can computationally verify. That is again a very, very, very definitive statement. Elaborate a little bit on it.
Right. So I think governance till now, when we're talking about traditional sort of governance, when it was based on pen and paper, to a governance which is I think transformationally moved towards e-governance to a large extent now, has mostly been based on trust, and the trust which fortunately we are still able to enjoy from the people, that they trust that whatever is going to be done by somebody who is sitting on this chair, or it is going to be for the benefit of the people, But unfortunately, in a lot of instances, either that trust is not upheld to that extent that it is expected in sometimes, but at the same time, it is also that whether the trust is being maintained or not, it is not verifiable by the people in any which way. They have no option rather than just believing that, okay, this is for the benefit of me or somebody else, but they have no other way of sort of transparently checking whether this responsibility that I have been, sort of bestowed with, am I going to be held accountable for this? Or should I be held accountable for this by the people? And there has to be some mechanism of doing this. Right now there is only an administrative way of holding me accountable. But if we want the people to hold me accountable, then we have to bring in some elements wherein we are trying to provide them avenues of doing exactly the same. Again, the caste certificate project is exactly the same thing, that whatever benefits are going to be given to the people from now on in Etapalli subdivision based on caste certificates, they can be easily verifiable by anybody who is able to just scan a QR code and sort of check the data in 10 seconds. And that's precisely why we are where we're talking about governance going into the right direction, wherein people get the reins of administration rather than the administrators trying to run things on their own. So that is precisely what we mean when we use this statement in the case study.
It is very important that this generation, of the generation that you represent, bring about these changes and also change in the thought process, and that breaks the shackles and the conservative mindset that we have all passed through. I mean, at least I have passed through in my past life. So now let's talk about this fascinating story of blockchain-based caste certificates. How different is it from the normal digitized caste certificate issued by the government of Maharashtra, which I believe was issued through Maha Portal? what are the distinct advantages of this kind of certificate issued, using a blockchain technology? Where did the idea come from?
Right. So let me start with where did the idea come from, and then we'll move to what are the features of this project. Like I said, I was posted in Nashik for my district training. I did 1 year of my posting there. When I was posted as the Tehsildar of one of the blocks in Nashik, I came across a land case in which there was somebody who had falsified his certificate as an ST, scheduled tribe. And because there are certain restrictions on transfer of land from transfer of lands belonging to the tribals imposed by the governments across states, that person was able to get hold of a huge chunk of land by claiming that he was a scheduled tribe. And again, it sounds like a very a very simplistic issue if you start looking at it that way. But when I was sitting on that chair of a Tehsildar, I could see that there were about 100 people coming to me every day, and their lives depended on that piece of land, which had probably been taken away from them because of that one fake certificate, which was unfortunately being produced to use that to ensure that transfer of land in that case, right? So when I was there, that idea came. I really started asking my questions. Can we not do something about it? And probably that time I was not able to really conceptualize the use of blockchain in doing the same, But when I came to this place, there is an organization in Maharashtra, and a wonderful organization called Maharashtra State Innovation Society. And it's a government organization. This organization brings in a lot of startups. It's basically for the promotion of startups and nurturing them. So they bring in a lot of startups, and they had shared this annual report with me of the past 2 years, whatever they had done. And I just got this idea that let me just try using, issuing caste certificates using a blockchain. And let me also just tell you that this project is possible only in a state like Maharashtra and probably other states where the certificates are issued online. Because in this case, I didn't have to worry at all about how will I build the system, because the system is already there. It's already a digital certificate which is being issued by the government of Maharashtra. What I'm doing in this project is basically just picking up the certificate and passing it through that system of blockchain, which we have built using the help of LegitDoc. And ultimately, that certificate becomes verifiable in just about 10 seconds. It generates a unique QR code on that same caste certificate which is being issued by the government of Maharashtra. Of course, we have not tampered with the certificate which is being issued by the government. We've just put a QR code below on that same big piece of paper. And when you scan that QR code, you go to the website, the district official website, and you will be able to see whether the certificate is authentic or not in just about 10 seconds. So this is precisely what the project is. And so, yeah.
No. So again, it brings many questions in my mind. So when you were going through these past innovations that have come from that unique organization of Maharashtra government, so did you develop this model on a PPP basis, or did you just go ahead and talk to the startup or talk to the provider and rope them in? How did it go?
So generally, the idea is once we conceptualize something or probably try to execute a program, the first step is going to be talking to the startup that can you really execute this project for me? And we spoke to a couple of startups in that journey. I'm talking about just about 6 months back. So we spoke to a couple of startups and we tried to get an understanding as to can we really execute this project, because we can try to imagine a lot of things, but technology is something which only the startup probably will be the best person to tell, best organizations to tell us really whether this is doable or not. So we did that, and then both the startups were very happy to know, and they were able to execute this project. Then sort of an estimates were taken from them as to how much money will it cost to execute this sort of a project, and like negotiations happened and all that. So that is the process that we went through. But ultimately, PPP was not possible. And of course, the startup is a startup. It's a for-profit organization, so they could not do anything about it. So ultimately, we had to go to the government. And again, the district collector was very kind enough to sort of sanction those funds for me. And we were able to execute this project. So it's a very simple business transaction, how this project came into existence. But yes, a lot of ideating happened much before this project was brought on an official framework.
Great. So you mentioned that these certificates are instantaneously verifiable. Could you please tell us how does it work? Now, if this experiment is successful, should it be adopted at scale by the government of Maharashtra or maybe other governments too? You briefly talked about that Gadchiroli district is already working on other such projects.
Right. So, in terms of how this certificate is verified in about 10 seconds, I'll have to go back a little and tell you a little bit about how the project, how the blockchain system really works.
Sure.
So once we have a caste certificate issued by the government of Maharashtra, there are about 10, 12 important fields which we have identified, which is data which is unique to every person to whom a caste certificate is being issued. So what the system does is very, very simple. It's, I think, one of the simplest projects that can be done on blockchain actually. So what we do is we just about extract the information from those 12 blocks, 12 unique piece of information, hash each individual information individually. So for example, the name of a person is hashed separately. When I talk about a hash, it's basically encrypted.
Yes.
So you take the name of a person, you encrypt it and store it in the form of hash. And then you do the same thing with the caste of the person, same thing with the date of birth, village name, and there are 10 other fields when we're talking about hashing, right? So we ultimately then we combine all those 12 or 10 to 12 hashes, and then we hash these hashes and we come to one single hash. So when we're talking about hashing, we are basically talking about hash of the hashes, and that one single hash is ultimately stored on the blockchain. That is precisely why how the system works. So whenever any person is just scanning that QR code on either the district website or just on the device which they are holding in their hands, they are taken to that information which is being stored in the form of a hash, and that information is retrieved from the blockchain using the help of course, the system developed by LegitDoc in just about 10 seconds. So the 10 seconds which is taken to verify that information is just to get the information from the system which is already storing it. And the best part of the project is the blockchain is only and only storing the hash of the hashes. It does not have any data which is being stored on any other platform apart from what the government is already doing. So that is how we are trying to execute this project, keeping in mind all the other concerns that may be there. And in terms of the scalability of the project, I will be very happy to tell you again that already another district in Maharashtra is in talks to execute this sort of same project. In fact, a batchmate of mine, district in Rajasthan just called me yesterday. They wanted to do something about this. A district in Jharkhand is already in talks with LegitDoc to execute this project. So in terms of scalability, this project has tremendous opportunities of how we can make things easier and benefits unique to the people, and the benefits should really reach to the people they're intended to. And that's probably where the country is moving, maybe a step each time, but I'm sure this project will be taken up at a larger scale somewhere soon.
No, when I'm talking to you, I do not at all feel that I am talking to an administrator, and I'm sorry to say, but I'm surely not feeling that I'm talking to an economics postgrad. I feel as if I'm talking to a CTO of a very evolved organization, frankly speaking. So what according to you, my last question is, what according to you could be other such areas where blockchain can be a better technology and better technology backbone than the conventional technology that we have been using so far?
Right. So I think, like I said, so it's very important when you're talking about government, ultimately the government is doing a very simple thing, that it is using taxpayers' money to equitably distribute the benefits of that money to the people. That is precisely what the government is doing, right? Now, in this particular case, there are a lot of government schemes which are either individual benefit based or organization benefit based. But ultimately, there is some process involved of identification of beneficiaries, either in the form of one individual person or in the form of an organization, right? That identification is extremely important. So once you sort of bring those that information, which again, like I said, Gadchiroli district collector is trying to do a similar sort of project. When we try to do this project, when we bring in all the information of, let's say, the residents of a district into that system of blockchain, which is non-temperable and which is easily verifiable, that targeting the identification of beneficiaries become extremely, extremely simple. Of course, we have to bring in elements of ML and AI there. And I was just when we were trying to design this other project, I was part of the team which was designing this project. So I was just ideating a little bit, I was saying that probably after identification of the beneficiaries, we can go ahead to the extent of impact assessment also, which the government hasn't been very keen on doing as of now, So probably we can bring in elements of AI and bring in a little bit data from the field after a scheme is implemented, and the tool will itself generate an impact assessment analysis for us and tell us whether you have been able to successfully deliver the benefits to the people with the intended aim of the scheme or not. So blockchain is just one part of Web3, but I'm talking about a broader perspective of blockchain plus MI plus ML plus AI, wherein we bring in all the elements together and make governance really as dynamic as it's supposed to be.
So makes a lot of sense. And as you said, that there is a lot of, there is an accountability factor. And when you do an impact assessment, and if that impact assessment is to a certain degree, to a certain percentage, that actually encourages both stakeholders. One stakeholder, which is government, that yes, you have put the money at the right place and it is reaping benefits. And also on the other side, the citizens who are getting benefited from this are also quite keen to then use more such services in the future. Excellent talking to you, Shubham, and I'm so grateful that you could take time out from your schedule. I understand what a district administrator's time is all about. So thank you very much for your valuable inputs. I will keep talking to you in the future as well, as and when you implement any other new project.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you so much. I had a great time.